I feel like in most of the city you get like rows of triple deckers or whatever that are basically identical. But Back Bay has a bunch of row houses that are all like slightly different from each other in ways that are fun.
I bet it's because it's so new. It's like 1860s or something like that. I bet it took a lot of inspiration from the brownstones of New York.
The brownstone as a concept really appeals to me as somebody who thinks that urban living is great. And people are like, oh, I don't want to be like jammed into a tiny apartment. And it's like, okay, but what if you were in like a really beautiful but just narrow house? And you didn't have a yard, but it's okay because you're right next to a giant, wonderful public garden. Yeah. I think that's probably the ideal way for people to live. But yeah, there we are.
It looks great, doesn't it?
I don't know why I'm surprised if I don't know how cameras work. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, it looks great.
Great.
That's why I was like, we'll sit here because that's perfect lighting.
That
90-degree angle.
Always thinking about, we're exploring Boston, but in like we're rediscovering Boston, you know? We're from here, but we're also visiting.
Oh, I like that.
Oh.
I'm Brian.
I'm Ben.
And we're rediscovering Boston.
And today we're exploring Back Bay.
The whole point of this series is to show how beautiful the city of Boston is, local institutions, local places that people love and that they enjoy.
We're from here, but we're also visiting here. Like, we've both been in Back Bay many times, but I can't think of the last time that I was like, let's stroll through Back Bay, deliberately seeing the sights. Because it is probably the most beautiful part of Boston.
A big reason we want to do this is to kind of try to look at things like I've never looked at them before. Like, very objectively say, wow, what a beautiful place. I've seen it a million times, so it's really easy to forget how much I love this city.
The greatest city in the world. Everyone agrees. Yeah, Boston, Massachusetts.
What were you saying?
All the neighborhoods of Boston are beautiful in their own way. Because I feel like there is an interesting, I like this as sort of a half, what if you treat the city where you live as a tourist, where on the one hand we're sort of, milling about doing new things, but on the other hand do still know the area. I do think of Back Bay as sort of like the bougie area where I only occasionally go. But if you just kind of embrace and accept that, yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah,
it's a nice place to stroll. It's really beautiful. It'd be such a cool place to live if I was fantastically wealthy.
Yeah.
That's the actual goal. Look, there's a very specific set of people out there who feel like, my God, Thosmoser. I feel like the number of people who have listened to the song Thosmoser and don't know that it's named after this random furniture store in Back Bay is high. It's a banger. I know literally 2 facts about this building. Yeah, this is the Restoration Hardware Gallery. It used to be a museum of natural history, which is why it looks so cool and wonderful, and now for reasons I don't understand, it's like the showroom for a fancy furniture store, which I don't have anything against fancy furniture stores, but it's such a cool building. I wish it was still a museum of natural history.
Yeah, Emack and Bolio's local institution, 1975. Boston's accidentally a big ice cream town. There's a lot of ice cream shops in its different neighborhoods, and people don't really think of that when they think of Boston. This is beautiful Commonwealth Avenue. This is also the last time I'm going to say Commonwealth Avenue in this video because no one says Commonwealth Avenue. It's just simply Com Ave.
I feel like there must have been a point in my life where I learned that Com Ave stood for Commonwealth Avenue.
It was probably later than you'd think too.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the times that my parents drove through Boston. The idea of being oh, it's named after the Commonwealth, of course, I don't think ever came up.
Ooh, this is definitely part of the video. You see what's wrong with this street? What's wrong with this street is that you have this beautiful walkway right here, goes to the dead center of the park, and then when you get to an intersection, you would expect the pathway to continue forward, but instead it doesn't. It just stops and you have to go to each side, which doesn't really make any sense. So I guess we're gonna go to the side to cross the street to go back to the middle.
Yeah, although as I look at this doesn't even have a light telling us when the...
No idea.
Huh. Beautiful part of Boston.
It is. Boston Women's Memorial. Phyllis Wheatley, Lucy Stone, and Abigail Adams.
Massachusetts has like a very long history of progressivism, and part of that is a history of advocating for women's rights. Yeah, Phyllis Wheatley actually is really worth checking out. Phyllis Wheatley was like a poet. She was like a known, renowned poet, despite being, you know, an African woman born in Boston in the 1700s. And her poetry is worth checking out. It's really interesting. And also just, again, an incredible achievement. I don't know how to put this in a way that like sounds as respectful as I intend, but it's like you have to be a real prodigy for people in 1700s Massachusetts to be like, we have to check out the poetry of Phyllis Wheatley. Absolutely deserved.
Here's another beautiful case of where you're on the pathway in Comm Ave and you get to an intersection, and instead of walking through the middle, you just have to go to the sides, which doesn't really make sense.
And
I
you
digress.
might be like, you can figure out when you can cross, but it's harder than you'd think. I feel like just, again, pointing out that, like, as a child growing up in the suburbs in 2005, you could have told me that Newbury Comics was as big a brand name as Nike, and I would have believed you. This guy's toothy grin was absolutely everywhere. A local, iconic brand.
It was also where you went to buy, like, all the CDs.
I mean, I know some people who still buy comics, and I know people who still buy the other sorts of things that are sold at a place like Newbury Comics, but I do feel like there was a real heyday. This was like in the same niche as like Hot Topic, but much cooler, where it was like you were buying like music, I don't know how to put it, all of the other like unusual physical objects that feel like they've been replaced with digital stuff, you know? Another thing that I think I didn't like put together, because I think I thought it was such a huge brand, like I think I kind of thought it was a national brand.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the original one was on Newbury Street, which I think is this. I think this is probably just the first one established in 1978.
It's just named Newbury Comics because it's on Newbury Street, which I think a
where it
lot
was
of people
from.
in suburbs don't realize that.
Back when Newbury Street was a lot more hip and edgy.
Wicked good time. Boston brand.
Yeah.
Again, I would have never realized, never thought anything about. I did think it was a huge brand nationwide, that they had locations all over the place. They don't. It's a New England thing.
I feel strangely motivated to get a big Newbury Comics logo tee now. Now that I know how local they are, I'm like, I should represent. But I don't really buy comics or things of that nature anymore, and I don't want to, I don't want to be a poser. My fun Berkeley fact.
Yeah. All right, go.
Okay, yes. So the Berklee College of Music, my fun fact is that it's named after a guy named Lee Burke. They just flipped the name around to create this new thing, Berkeley, spelled differently than other Berkeleys. And if I'm remembering correctly, Lee Burke was the son of the founder of the Berklee College of Music, but then Lee Burke also later became president. So Lee Burke, the person who Berkeley is named after, is like the third president of the Berklee College of Music. And I think that's neat and a bit silly. A lot of professional musicians have different pathways or whatever. But what I've really heard is, especially if you just want to be in like the music industry, because there's a whole, in addition to like the pop stars and whatever, there's a whole industry of, production and also stuff like distribution and whatever.
Sound engineering.
Yeah, and like all of those things, if you go to Berkeley, you're very well set up to be in the music industry. So if you want to be like a breakout pop star, you have to go the route of like going to Berkeley, but also playing in one of the many like surprisingly technically good garage bands of Allston, where all the like Berkeley kids are like playing basement shows, but they're all incredibly good because they go to music school for full time. But I think the real secret of Berkeley is tremendously good like industry connections and all that jazz.
Well, one thing really cool about the Back Bay neighborhood is it was the bay. It's named Back Bay because it was the bay of Boston. It's all landfill, and in the next, I believe in the next few decades, it's going to be a problem because it's all built on wooden pylons, but it's a tidal neighborhood, so it like floods, and water and wood over a long period of time aren't great. But that is the history of Back Bay. It's the only part of Boston that is designed as a grid because it was built intentionally, and it's newer than the rest of the parts of the city. And it's also why it's the nice part.
That is true. It is funny that, like, as Boston got more prosperous in the 1800s, they were like, let's just make some new land for all of these rich people to live in. I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. This is why, everyone calls Boston the Venice of America, because it's all built on wooden piles. Nobody calls it that, but they should.
They do call it the Athens of America.
They do, which makes a lot of sense.
All right, let it rip.
Okay, this makes sense. So this building was initially constructed as a combination fire and police station. The fire station is still around. The police station used to be the Institute of Contemporary Art, which has now moved to that lovely building overlooking the harbor. But I guess that means it's such a gorgeous building, not because it was initially related to the architectural college. They just built a gorgeous building. They just, back in the day, were like, our combination fire station and police department is going to be this beautiful, vaguely based on the architecture of Venice. Yeah, although like rounded domes or rounded arches are like Byzantine by way of Venice and then ended up in Boston, like that one church, I forget which one specifically. And there was like a very influential British architecture critic, John Ruskin, who in the 1800s wrote a book, The Stones of Venice, that was like single-handedly responsible for this huge revival in Venice-inspired architecture. Like the Isabella Stewart Gardiner is all based on like a Venetian palazzo, because it was at the same time that people were building all of these cool buildings with their round arches and stonework.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
I honestly wish I knew a lot more about like architectural history, because especially in a place like Boston, you really can walk around and look at buildings and be like, oh, whoever built that was like influenced by this, that, and the other school. And like, you can see a bit of the historical trajectory.
You can. The entire City Hall is all Greco revival.
Yeah, it's like there's all these different like movements. I think it's neat. I need to learn more though.
All right, we did lunch at Abe and Louie's in the Back Bay. This is one of the last remnants of like old school Boston steakhouse.
It's really cool.
It's a really cool place. The staff all wear suits.
They all wear like jackets. It's like a very specific.
It's a real classic, classy spot. Absolutely packed for dinner every day. Gets busy at lunch on the weekends. I don't know how it is during the weekday. I think it's gonna be a good lunch. Asked us if we wanted more bread because we absolutely destroyed the first basket. And they came back with new kinds of bread in the second basket. And I don't know what more someone could want other than more bread, more butter. Roasted mushroom omelet. What did you get?
The shaved beef hash. I'm pretty stoked.
It's absolutely delicious. I want to do takeaways of every neighborhood while we're doing them. Just things that I learned about the neighborhoods, things that I enjoyed, maybe something that was a little bit different than I expected. And I think my big takeaway about Back Bay was it was surprisingly difficult. I don't know if this was how it was for you. It was surprisingly difficult to find Boston quintessential activities or locations still in Back Bay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the vibe. It's why like, oh man, I don't know what I want the tone of this to be, because it is the case that like being in Boston, Back Bay is sort of like, I think of it as like the kind of bougie shopping area, and that is true. It does have a lot of like cool things there, and I think the fact that the buildings are all incredibly gorgeous like makes it worth a stroll. And I absolutely do that stroll down Com Ave often, or just like wandering through the public gardens and swinging by Newbury Street, especially the end that has, you know, wonderful Newbury comics, etc. But yeah, on the whole, it's like a lot of it is just sort of the high-end shopping district of Boston. And I gotta say, that's not something that I spend a lot of time doing. That said,
It's also not
still a
something that
beautiful
I can
neighborhood.
spend a lot of money doing.
Yeah, I don't think I can spend, you know, many days whiling away the hours in the Armani store, just acquiring more and more suits.
I think it is maybe the easiest place to walk around, though. Maybe in all of Boston, it is so easy to walk around Back Bay and have a free, good time.
Yeah, I think anyone should at some point do the stroll from like the public gardens to, you know, the Harvard Bridge.
Public Garden to Harvard Bridge, the whole Esplanade, so beautiful. People do it every single day. Every weekend, people are just walking around here. I mean, it's packed right now, and it's not warm outside.
It's not. I really thought it would be a little more warm than it is.
Great places to just sit and take it in for a little bit, right here being one of them. Yeah, I think that's my major takeaway with Back Bay when I've been rediscovering it. Again, because I can just clip all the,
Yeah.
which is great.
Although I do think it'd be funny to just put this in the video.
Well, that's like the
We have
outro.
an
That's the
outro that's just
yeah.
us being like, it's surprisingly difficult
It's
to say your
surprisingly
thoughts on
difficult
camera.
to say thoughts on
But,
camera.